All right, well, I have 201. Why don't we go ahead and get started? And I'm sure we'll have a couple of folks join as we go. But good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar, Zero Trust and the Remote Workforce. I'm Jessica Altman, president of i4DM. We're happy you're here making the decision to learn more about cybersecurity. Being aware of the threat landscape of 2023, which includes a largely remote workforce and a sea of sophisticated attackers, is a crucial first step in improving your organization's cybersecurity. Now, nobody here is trying to scare you, but awareness allows you to make the decision that's in the best interest of your organization and its ability to protect its own data. Remote work certainly was gaining popularity in the months and years leading up to March of 2020, but exploded as a result of our COVID-19 pandemic. And today, about 41% of our workforce is remote. So for those of us that are hiring managers, and certainly those of us that work remotely, this has been a great benefit. However, it certainly opened business up to new cybersecurity risk. And if those risks are exploited, can result in significant cost to business. So over the next 30 minutes, our team of experts will introduce you to the concept of zero trust. Now, zero trust doesn't mean we don't trust our people. It means that we want to protect them. It means that we want to protect their data. It means that we want to protect the business that provides for them and protect our customers' data. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. As we move through the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A feature of our webinar and throw some questions in there. We'll either get them answered on the spot or certainly immediately following our webinar here today. So thank you again for attending. And Jim, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Brian
Sorry, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian Vredenberg. I'm the Director of Managed Services at i4DM, and I've got over 24 years of industry experience, and 20 of those have been in cybersecurity. And my day-to-day job is managing i4DM and my clients' security and answering all of their security questions. Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Jessica and Ryan, thank you very much. I'm Jim Peterson. I'm a solution advisor with ConnectWise. If you're not familiar with ConnectWise, we're a software company. We provide security, backup protection, and management systems to IT solution providers like i4DM. And we get to help be part of these solutions to educate and send information out to their clients so that we can learn a little bit more about cybersecurity and what we can do to try to thwart some of the challenges in the world. Now, I know we're here to talk about zero trust and SASE, but we're going to start with a little history to get a little understanding of why we need these type of solutions. And if we think of cybersecurity, there's a definition out there that it's a practice of protecting systems. But it's really a lot more than that. It's a holistic solution to make sure that your reputation, your people, your clients, your data, everything is protected from all of these challenges that are out there. So it's a bigger solution today than it ever has been. So that holistic solution includes a lot of things, right? The cyber tools that everybody is very familiar with, the antivirus or the endpoint detection, the backup solution, security awareness training, all of these come in as a cyber tool. But that backup is a really key piece because no matter what happens, we're always still at risk. Even if we have a great layered approach, there's always a chance something can happen or a disaster could happen. So a really good BCDR solution is just an important piece of any cybersecurity stance. Then we have the real work, the processes, the assessment, and the teams. Those three things combine to give the call to action or the steps to take whenever there's an issue, and also to help protect from issues that come in. So a little history. Right, a lot of these terms may look very familiar to people in the audience because we've had a lot of different style of attacks over the years, from physical theft, right, all the way through to AI-assisted attacks today. And the interesting part about a lot of these different attacks is that they morph and evolve over time. We may stop a certain email attack to have it be modified and come back strong a week or month or year later. So if we be very vigilant through all of these, we don't ever end an attack. We just stop it for now and then be aware of its changes. So we put lots of solutions in place, again, over time to try to better prepare and protect environments. From antivirus to EDR, we jumped ahead to try to say, Well, we know there's unknown threats and we know there's known threats, and we want to make sure we protect against both. And that's where that endpoint detection comes in over something like an antivirus. So as we layer all of these in, it looks like a big stack. And in no way do we say everybody has to have every single one of these. But if we think of these layers, if one doesn't catch a problem, the other ones are likely to catch the problem and stop that attack as it's coming in. So from managed detection and response to DNS and web filtering. And DNS and web filtering is just a simple application to say, do I trust the site and do I trust the data coming from the site? Security awareness training, which most of us have in today's world, trying to educate and then test that education through automated emails that may be a little suspicious and helps you identify some of those challenges. Access management techniques similar to Zero Trust, SIM and SOC, which help correlate a bunch of data from across different systems into one central piece of equipment so we can see alerts and notify and actually respond to them in a timely manner. Obviously, BCDR. And before we, a couple of years ago, we would stop at that BCDR comment and say it's the last line of defense. Unfortunately, cyber insurance has really become the last line of defense. It's something that we never want to use, but having a good cyber insurance policy can help protect business. The ransom is getting very expensive, but on top of that, the remediation, the downtime, the reputational damage, all of that is very expensive. So ensuring that you have a great cyber insurance policy will help protect your business. So we know the steps were taken or the layers were taken to try to stop attacks. Who are the bad actors, right? A long time ago, when this first really started, we would have considered them basement bandits or just individuals who were very gifted in programming or understood technology that would do a lot of these attacks. It's moved and morphed quite a bit over the last couple of decades. Nation states are involved, typically with larger organizations where intellectual property or trade secrets are in play and they want to take those and use them. But the majority of challenges and ransoms that we see today are from organized crime. And these are actual businesses, typically overseas, where their sole source of income is your ransom, your extortion, or the sale of your data. And they know that your data is valuable to you, so it's also valuable to them. Long gone are the days when small businesses weren't a target. They're actually really great targets for these organized crime units today, because typically they're not as sophisticated with their security implementations. So if we know who the bad actors are, how do they get in? Roughly 80% of all incidents or breaches, and there's a real difference in those two terms. Incident means an attack went past at least one of our layers. Breach means it got to the data, and we typically won't use that breach word unless somebody like Brian comes in and says you were breached, because it really has ramifications and if you have to report it or not. So just throwing those two terms out there. But 80% of those incident and breaches are people-based. They come from exploits, accidents, mistakes that people make that give access to the bad actors. Credentials is the first one, username and password. And it's really simple. If that's all you're using to protect your information, it's a very easy vulnerability for a bad actor to be able to access that world. Solution like multi-factor authentication helps significantly decrease, not eliminate, but significantly decrease the risk of those credentials. Phishing is obviously also very common, and we're all very aware of that. We get emails all the time, or even smishing, which is the SMS version of that, saying our Amazon package has been delayed. And so we know that those are coming in, but still in the environment, roughly 17% of incidences are phishing based. And we use things like security awareness training and email filtering to filter that out, block them, try to avoid them, so that people can know when anything suspicious happens. If it does bypass our email filter, we can tell our technology team, tell our IT support system, whatever we need to do to make sure that we don't click on that email. So we'll always say, just go to the source. If you're concerned about an email that comes in, go to the source, don't just click the link. And the last one we're going to talk about is exploits. Now, exploits are vulnerabilities in software and hardware. There's thousands and thousands of them out there at any given time. But an exploit is typically reversed through patching. So this is where the i4DM team comes in. patches your system, patches your servers, patches your firewalls, and reduces this vulnerability point. Now, if we have the bad actors, we kind of know who they are. Typically, they're organized crime. They're typically getting in through a credential or some user mistake. What are they doing? And if we think about that first attack gaining access, right, there's a real strict process that the bad actors will typically follow. They'll start with investigation. They want to understand the environment they've just gained access to. Do you have very sensitive information? Do you have intellectual property? Can they find your cyber insurance policy on the network to see what your policy states? They're going to want to understand your environment before they start doing anything to maximize their take, their ransom, their extortion with the CLE data. Once they understand the environment, they're going to start taking. They're going to pull data out, especially if it's sensitive data. They're going to exfiltrate that off-site to their facility or some other facility, but they're going to take it so they can have it. This way, if our defense mechanisms kick in and stop future attacks, they still can extort all that data. So all of this is building to a bigger and bigger payday. From that exfiltration, they'll try to disable or dismantle or affect your backup system, CDR. If you don't have good immutable storage, then that just means that it's completely separated and isolated from the production environment. If that is affected, it can allow them to maximize the ransom because you can't restore from it. From BCDR, they move to production, and this is when we notice it. This is when the files are missing, or they've been changed, or we click on them and we get a notice saying it's coming. And from there, the ransom request comes in. It seems like a lot of steps, but by doing it this way, the bad actors can maximize that payout. If they know they have the sensitive data, you can't recover from it, and we've now changed that production environment, they hold all the cards. They can maximize that payout. And this typically happens over a 200-day period, which seems like a very, very long time. And the scary part about this 200-day period, they can obviously be much longer, they can be shorter, but this is just the point where we notice that the breach has occurred. From there, we have to remediate, we have to recover, we have to re-implement security solutions. So it is a long time when this bad actor, from the bad actor access to safe. And Brian, I think you have a couple examples that maybe you've had personally that you can talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I do have two specific examples. The first one kind of talks about bad actor access, and a slide you had earlier showing how business email compromises is still a high threat vector. We had one customer who was not using our services just yet. They had just signed on, I think less than 30 days before, and they got an email with a Excel spreadsheet in it. Looked harmless, looked like it was from someone they knew. They clicked it. As soon as they clicked it, it started trying to encrypt their machine. Luckily, we had MDR on there, and it stopped the attack, killed the process, and isolated the machine from the network before it could spread. That machine was then reprovisioned, and the threat was completely mitigated. The same organization, we had been begging them to use MFA and some other security solutions, and they had not yet taken those suggestions up. And so I got a call one evening, and they didn't have MFA on somebody in the finance department of this specific organization, and because it was just too difficult. So the user was able to, the attacker, was able to, get through the credentials by password spraying, which they just tried until they got in. So then now they're in their Office 365 account. They're a finance officer at a larger organization, and they just sat, as Jim was talking about, doing some investigation. And they were also forwarding all the emails, unbeknownst to the user, to a separate Gmail account. So that went on for several weeks until they were able to learn who the players were in the organization. They were then able to use that financial person on the staff's email box, unbeknownst to them, to request transfers of $60,000 in this case. And that got caught moments before it was executed. Other smaller amounts were stolen, but this was the larger one. There was another one that was attempted for 6 figures. But this was simply, as Jim had described, someone sent a phishing email, they gained access, they observed, they took data, and then they tried to, pull more money out through tricking the user. So these threats are real. I've seen them with my own eyes, and there's something to definitely be aware of and protect yourself against. Jim?
Yeah, real good point. And that kind of goes into the next piece here. Like, why do they do it, right? We know who they are. We know what they're doing. Obviously, the financial gain is it, especially if we think about these businesses being the ones that are extracting these dollars, extorting us, ransoming us. It won't be surprising that this is the FBI's report annually on how many events have happened and how much money has been extracted. 10.3 billion in 2022, which was up from 6.9 billion in 2021. And this may not seem like a huge number. It's a huge number to us, but this is the lowest possible number because just because you were ransomed or you were extorted or they stole your data and sold it doesn't mean you have to report it. A lot of small businesses, a $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 ransom, they'll pay it and they don't want competition or clients or team to know anything about it. So they just pay it and move on. So if you don't have to report it, it doesn't get to this number. So this is likely a very small number. The overall amount is going to pay to ransom 2022.
And I just wanted to jump in real quick here, Jim, and reiterate something that's in the text. You are correct. A lot of smaller businesses really believe, well, why would they want my data? They don't necessarily want your data the way you think they do. They want your data so they can take over your identity and your staff's identity. That's what they want. So it might not be your set of books they want that they're looking for or your client list. They want to impersonate your users and be able to make money off of your users, your customers, your employees.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting how many ways they've found to make money off of this, but we'll definitely jump in because the next topic is kind of fun, AI. We hear a lot about AI in the workforce, so we could kind of dig into narrow versus general AI and where we're at today. But what AI has really done is it's turned anyone who has a little bit of computer ability into a very sophisticated hacker. I can go out to a site and ask for a script to be built that can take over a computer, tie that to a website, email a couple million people, and hope a few people click it. It turns me as a non-coding person into a very challenging adversary. It's similar to ransomware as a service, which is still used today, where I just pay someone to attack a company or a group of company or an industry. It's just really impacted. It can do good or it can do bad, and in some cases, it's doing some pretty challenging things. So with all those things, we put together lots of different technologies, things like AI, these bad actors getting in, human problems. How do we secure that modern communication? And we're using a technology today called SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. What that does is it takes a lot of these layers and puts them closer to the communication. So if we look at a few of these, we'll say maybe it needs to flow through a specific site or through our headquarters, or it has to be running on our PC to protect the environment. There's some gotchas in there. So SASE comes along beside this and helps ensure the communication is going in the right direction and has all of the right attributes and solutions tied to it. So we look for SASE. And again, this is a pretty historical model. A business that has a couple different SaaS applications, obviously users browsing the internet, maybe even a private cloud. The history would be, I have a central location with most of my equipment that does the protection, and I have to get to that from my remote offices, from my mobile users, so that I can get out safely to the internet to do those SaaS browsing and private cloud activities. Some challenges come in with performance issues, right? We have to have more and more bandwidth all the time for the type of browsing, the type of access that we have. And centralizing that really can create a bottleneck when we're trying to access things quickly. Connectivity costs. Private connectivity is very expensive. When we can just use direct internet access, we can really reduce the cost of connectivity for companies. And then just the mobile user, right? As a mobile user, Performance is everything. I want to get my job done effectively. I want to work fast. I may be traveling quite a bit. I'm going to oftentimes, right or wrong, try to work around solutions to make it work better for my specific workload. So mobile users that bypass solutions, bypass their VPN, go straight to browsing, it adds a layer of risk because now I'm not as secure as I was when I was tunneling through that network. So before SASE, we have some real challenges out there. Now with SASE, we said, hey, we're going to eliminate those bottlenecks. We're going to eliminate some of those challenges, and we're going to require all connectivity to flow through this protection mechanism. It secures the communication. It applies security policies, and it puts those software applications at the edge where we need it the most. So the users can't bypass it. They don't have to go through a bottleneck to get it. And those remote offices can have a much higher bandwidth with direct internet access. Obviously, the problems solved are the problems we had: performance, connectivity, and workarounds. But one of the fun things that we get with this is this simplified rollout: compliance, alignment, centralized management. Now, Brian, your team has been rolling out SASE for quite a while now. How simple is this rollout?
So yeah, it's a good question. So we've done all the work on the back end, and SASE it can be one application or a suite of applications working together. And we deploy those with scripts to machines both in-house in an office, maybe they're in your headquarters, or maybe they're at home or on travel. But as long as they're online, we can push those out without the end user really knowing that we're even doing anything and without interacting with the end user. And then we're able to tell that those were deployed successfully, and we'll start seeing the traffic go through the secure connections. So it's pretty simple. It's very transparent to the end users, and it's very effective.
Right on. Yeah, so we've kind of built all this up to say, hey, we've got a secure connection. We know tools. We know what the bad actors are doing. Now we want to really make sure that we're protecting our information. This is where the big topic comes in: zero trust. Now, SASE is a building block to zero trust. It allows zero trust to work a little easier and have those attributes highly defined. Let's get into what zero trust really is. It's limiting the access to what you need when you need it. So in the simplest terms, zero trust means no access unless, right? Unless you have multiple things in the best case scenario, like a multi-factor authentication for your business and your environment. Multiple things checked, we can now access the data. So if we look at the old way, when we just used to apply rights to a folder, Kai, who's an office manager at the business, has a username and password. Well, they're a large organization, and just the office manager in general has to have all these different accesses to HR, to finance, to general storage, just to do their job. Well, that person, the username and password is susceptible. And if it is hacked or bypassed, this bad actor now has access to everything because we've done it the old way, the easy way of applying access. Zero trust, again, this is a collection of concepts. It's not necessarily a technology. It's just putting up several policies in place to ensure the right person is accessing the right thing at the right time. So we use things like the person's identity, the device that they're coming from, the network that they're coming from, the application they're using to access the data, and then specifically which data they should be accessing. We can, at the end of the journey, add all of these together to really define that we know what Kai is doing and that she should be doing it. This progress is incremental. Nobody expects zero trust to be completely rolled out within a short time period. It can take years to roll out a true zero trust solution. But starting the journey is the real challenge, saying we want to move to a model that limits access unless we need it, so that we can limit a bad actor's access if they were ever to compromise that user. So in a zero trust model, we would have multiple attributes of Kai that would allow us to get access when we need it. So if we think Kai still has that username and password, but the system is also checking to make sure Kai is accessing it from her work computer on the domain, that it's on an approved local network, or if Kai is a remote employee, on that approved remote network, and that Kai is using the right application to access the data. Now, it doesn't have to be these exact 4 attributes, but it's multiplying these attributes so we're not just relying on a single username and password. And in this case, the attributes that Kai is using allows her to access the general storage, but not HR and finance, a different application, may allow the HR application to turn green, HR data to turn green, or finance. But we're only giving access to what they need to have in the time that they have. So when we think of these coming together, SASE and Zero Trust, along with several other technologies, you get a holistic, comprehensive security package. You're not only securing the communication from end to end, you're also minimizing what people really need to access for their job at the time that they need it. And you're maximizing performance, which is one of the big key aspects of SASE. Make sure people can access data and information as fast as possible to do their job as efficiently as possible with the right level of access. So to wrap this up, bad actors love you, your data, and your money. Everybody's a threat. You have information that is critical. And what we mean by that is it's important to you and you don't want to lose it. And maybe you don't even want anybody else to see it. If you have data like that, you're a target for bad actors. A layered stack will help maximize protection. The only way to really know what layers you need is to have a conversation with Jessica, Brian, and their team, or trusted advisor to understand your specific risks so that you can patch those holes and make sure that you're maximizing the security for your specific company. SASE reduces overlay challenges like performance, simplifies adoption, and is a building block for Zero Trust. And as we talked about, Zero Trust minimizes that access, and it is a journey, something you'll be on for a while. But every step you take in that Zero Trust journey will increase the protection of your data. Jessica, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much to both Jim and Brian for sharing all of that great information with us. And we understand the technology may be completely clear to some of you and a bunch of jumbly words to others of you. And really, in either case, i4DM is absolutely happy, ready, willing, and able to help. i4DM is very proud to have guided many organizations, both technology and non-technology companies, down this road towards their implementation of Zero Trust. And it is a journey, it is a path that takes some time to get down. And like I said, we're proud to have helped many organizations head down that path. So if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, or if you're interested in looking at your current security configurations, please reach out. My email address is on the screen, and we'd certainly like the opportunity to continue the conversation.